Hey guys, welcome to the Rubin Report. I'm the head of the Rebel Alliance in the War on Christmas, Dave Rubin, and I've got Gina Grad and Jayar Jackson with me. And of course, we're going to start with Obamacare because every week something happens. Nobody knows what to believe. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. And this week, it came out that maybe the security on the site just ain't that great. That's right. David Kennedy, who's the CEO of Trusted SEC, which is an internet security firm, he says that the site is a big old hacker's dream. Let's take a look.
Looking at the website, when we noticed a lot of the performance issues that were happening on the site, and basically started just poking and prodding a little bit, looking at the security, and we found out that it was pretty bad all around. And there were some things that we couldn't even disclose there because they were so critical in nature to public information that we weren't even able to show at the
When you say bad, I mean, what can you get at? What type of information could you get at as easily as you suggest you can?
Well, everything from hacking somebody's computer, so when you visit the website, it actually tries to hack your computer back, all the way to being able to extract email addresses, usernames, first name, last name, locations. All of those different things are available now on the website.
Okay, well that doesn't sound very good, does it? But the question is, who do we believe and what do we believe? I feel like every time I hear another one of these things, because every 2 days something happens. Now the site's getting hacked. Now the site's not working at all. Now it's up. Now 800 million people got on at once. I just don't know what to believe anymore. So before we get into the specifics of what he said, how have you decided what you can and can't believe related to this whole thing?
I just hope to stay employed by the private sector, so this is everybody else's problem and not mine, because this sounds like a world-class nightmare. I have friends that got on successfully. They have a super low, copay, and it's all good, and they're young, healthy men, and it's all good. But that's anecdotal. I haven't seen any evidence that anyone except my friend Chip is doing well with this site.
Good for Chip.
Yeah.
What do you think? Who do you believe when it comes to all this stuff?
I live in the realm of having to, every time you hear something from any side of the aisle, that you have to try and find their angle and the reason that they're saying what they're saying, if it's false. So, of course, I go into everything negatively. Like, everybody's lying, so let's find out why you're lying. And then if it checks out, oh, my bad, you weren't lying. So the first thing I thought, which I haven't had a chance for this guy, David Kennedy?
Yeah, David Kennedy.
First I looked into his company. Trusted SEC, what are they doing, who do they support, who supports them?
Trusted is in the name, Jayar.
Exactly, right? How often they appear on certain networks, where they started, what their background is, money, where it comes from, all that type of stuff. To see who they need to support or who supports them, to see who they need to serve to, which I, of course, like I said, I haven't had a chance to find out who this guy was. The first thing I thought was, who's David Kennedy, and does he have a lobbying firm? Does he have an interest with things with insurance companies that want to keep things status quo, or certain politicians or bigger corporations? I don't know.
Right.
But that's the first thing to look into.
We can't even trust CNBC to vet these people properly, unfortunately.
I mean, because maybe they don't even think to. They're thinking, oh, there's another angle to the story we need to find out from this expert. Not even saying that they're coming from a bad place, but like, here's an expert. We don't know how this works. We need a hacker guy to come in and tell us.
And because it's a government website, do they not have to play by the same rules that everybody else does? So if we get hacked, they don't have to tell us?
Right. Well, they were saying that even yesterday the site was working at something like 90% capacity, which if it was a private sector thing, you'd still get fired, because Amazon, it can't work at 90% capacity. If 1 out of every 10 people wasn't getting service, people would get fired. The only anecdotal thing that I can tell you is that my sister actually tried to sign up for Obamacare, and it didn't work, and then she started getting spam emails about health insurance. So that does show you that there definitely are some security things.
And with that, I even wondered to what extent it's those type of things. I've always told this story. I ventured into a Walmart last year and didn't buy anything. I was there with my girlfriend. She bought things, and I strolled in, strolled back out. Within 3 hours, I was getting text messages about Walmart things. Wow. And then I was like, man, I was just in.
You were just in there. You didn't even do anything.
I didn't use my card. I didn't make a phone call while I was in there.
Cool.
It's amazing. So I wonder to what degree things just kind of know where you are. I remember I was talking with Michael Schur before, a beloved Michael Schur of TYT. I mean, I'm not going to tell the specifics, but it was a medical conversation. The next day, I started getting sidebar on my computer, sidebar ads about that specific condition. Because I was asking myself, I never heard of that before. So he was explaining to me what it was. This is a verbal conversation in person.
I mean, that's really crazy.
Coming, and I was thinking, this is crazy.
We're bugged here at TYT.
Have you read 1984?
Yeah.
I haven't, and I still haven't read it.
Well, you're living it.
Well,
I can solve this whole problem, by the way. All they need to do is throw a dart at a map and pick any high school, pick a random kid out, and they will make a better website. WordPress, Cafe, these are all things that we all do in our sleep. So if you just want to have it done right with a little bit of security so you don't get too hacked, just ask a 14-year-old.
Yeah, so that goes to what I've said every week that we've done a story on this thing. I want this to work. I believe we can have universal health care like many other countries have already. But why does no one get fired? Why doesn't anyone get fired? Sebelius, anybody, as I said last week, a janitor that works at the website company. Why don't we fire anybody ever?
I think, and again, I haven't worked in this level of government. I worked in small little county jobs when I was trying to make some money and broke as hell after college. But it's one of the things I'm beginning to believe about the red tape of government. When Republicans say government just doesn't work, government doesn't know how to do anything straightforward like the private sector, the things the private sector can do, the government I think can't do is fire someone. That I think takes a process. It's hard to do. It's public when it comes from this high up level of office. And they go, so now what are they going to do next? Now they're going to have a press conference about it. Are they going to reveal some secrets? They're going to reveal some information. Is someone going to find out more about them? How many interviews are they going to do? I think there's so many extra worries about it that they think it's easy to keep them on. But doesn't that make it
doubly worse?
Yeah, but it's the nature. But it's almost the nature of the system.
And I want to believe in Barack Obama. He's like a stand-up dude, and I would love for him to have a closed-door meeting with all these fools and be like, "You are making me look like a punk-ass chump. Somebody fix this," instead of being like, "Well, you know, give it time." Now he sounds like an ass.
Yeah. So okay, that's a great segue. So doesn't it seem like he's lost some of his mojo because of this? I was watching the press conference yesterday, and it's like, remember the hope and change thing, and we all were like over the top. It was like it was really beyond what we were all feeling with him, and now it's like he's droning on, and it's like, come on, dude. Like, why isn't he cracking heads? That's what I don't get.
That's the question. Why isn't he cracking heads? Is it just because he feels like, you know what, I've done everything I can, I'm tired, I want to take my water poodle or whatever it is and just smoke some cigarettes and ride the rest of this thing out? Or does he really feel like he's done everything he can, his hands are tied, and everyone in his own cabinet is working against him? Is everyone else the villain?
Right.
Or is he just over it?
Right, or they don't even tell him. That's what it sounds like, that they don't really tell him when something's really awry or amiss. It doesn't even work its way up to him, so he can't be blamed.
And then when he has to sit up and talk about it, he comes with the, I don't know, and then it becomes a time waster.
Right.
And he can't say, I just don't know, which they've released in statements before, he just didn't know about certain things. But so I think when there's this much generated, there's always been so many scandals and attacks at him that come up empty.
Right.
And we see him as looking this way, because there's some merit to how bad the website has launched. Now, the merits behind it, or the things that we're trying to do with healthcare, or just provide things for more people, that's the positive part of it. But the website itself, it actually does suck. So he actually doesn't have a way to just pull his mojo through it.
Right. That's actually an interesting point, that maybe if the Republicans hadn't been so crazed attacking him on everything like Benghazi and IRS, things that quite haven't have fizzled out in a way, that they would have more of a legit voice to be attacking him on this one.
Do you think at some point he just gets so fed up with not knowing what to do that he's going to get up at the podium and just hold up a picture of his birth certificate? Be like, I have literally nothing else to give.
Well, that's the thing. Maybe he shot his load early, so to speak, and should have been waiting for the birth certificate on this one. So one of the things that I think is really interesting here is, the whole premise of Obamacare is that you need young, healthy people to sign up because that will keep the premiums low. So they say that they need about 40% of healthy people between 18 and 35 to get this thing to function properly. But when you hear about the hacking and this kind of stuff, that to me goes to what young people know about more, which makes it seem like young people are even going to do this less. So then that even hurts it more. So is this just like this endless double-edged sword we got going?
I think you really hit the nail on the head. I think it's old people trying to play a young people's game, and we're going to do something, this newfangled thing called a website, and they can't even get the basics down right. And us sophisticated youngsters don't want anything to do with it because we know better. So like I said, they should just pick, some whatever. Grab a kid from MIT. That's what they do. That's why they're there. And let him figure it out. Let her figure it out. But watching these people putz around is really not helping them.
Yeah. So final thought on this. So how much of this, because I know you're a conspiracy theorist, how much of this do you think could be done intentionally? That hackers are intentionally doing this? I don't know their political affiliation, but let's say something like Anonymous, not necessarily Anonymous, are actually intentionally attacking the site because they want this thing to fail.
Well, I don't know if that's some of the aspects of what's happening. Is it that they're finding that it's getting cyber attacked, or that it's getting hit from all sides, or just that when people test it, we're finding the holes in it. So it's
right. I think it's both. It's partly it's not working. It's just flat out not working, and they can't get the payments. If you pay, the money doesn't go to the insurance companies.
Yeah, I have a picture of the guys in D.C. in general, and they're older guys who don't know what they're doing, right? But then there is the reality of their staff are younger people. So have they been sucked into the machine so much that they forgot what normal life is like for a 26 to 32-year-old? Maybe, I don't know, but like, again, you have to reach outside of it and get one of these guys in and be like, I need you to find out what's going on with this before we find out what's going on with this. But the problem is it's hard to relinquish that control, I think, especially from the higher ups, the control people are like, you know, I'm an elected official, you know who I am.
Yeah, but then once all of a sudden there's a problem, everybody backs away, does the back away boogaloo, and then President Obama gets up there and says, meh. So if they're trying to protect him, they're doing a hell of a bang-up job, because he gets up there, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, because nobody wants to tell the boss that whatever they did, they fucked up.
Yeah. And on that note, would you guys just fix this freaking thing so that people that want it to work, like the three of us, would feel better about it, and we wouldn't have to do segments like this? Okay. Jonathan Zimmerman, who's a history professor at NYU, wrote a piece in the Washington Post saying that we should get rid of term limits so that President Obama can run for a third term. If the people wanted him to serve another term, why shouldn't they be allowed to award him one? Barack Obama should be allowed to stand for re-election, just as citizens should be allowed to vote for or against him. Anything less diminishes our leaders and ourselves. Okay, I could not possibly disagree with something more. We need term limits because, you know, we left a country called England because they had a king, and we didn't want to be constantly served under a king. And one of the things that actually works in our democracy is that these people have to go away eventually. Oh, Lord.
The fact that I'll go before
Take it, go.
I'm sorry, I'm ruined.
Go.
The fact that he personalized it is what makes it so easy to go after this. I mean, whenever it comes straight to, you know who shouldn't have term limits? President Obama. Did you say it? I mean, and this could easily be a conservative point about this. Would you have said that for the last president? Hell no, because nobody wanted him to stay any longer either. I didn't want him there for the first 4 years. So when you have such an easily take down argument like that, you just show your bias and show you don't really believe in your point. You just believe in the guy that you'd like to keep there. Now, because we have this democracy and this system where the people can elect who they want, maybe elect someone else that does the same type of stuff, maybe someone who do something even better. We can find that, or maybe we can make someone run with that kind of vigor behind them.
Right. Now, some of his arguments are somewhat legit. He argues that most of these second-term presidents become lame ducks.
They're checked out.
They're checked out. They're just going for legacy stuff, and they don't want to deal with policy, and they lose their influence in their party and all that kind of stuff. But isn't the overriding point here that we can't keep electing the same people? We've already had a Bush dynasty and a Clinton dynasty, and I'm pretty sure we may have another Clinton coming in. And you know what? Chelsea's going to run for senator one day, and I'm pretty sure Malia is going to be foreign secretary. I mean, we're doing it to ourselves already.
I want to see what Michelle's going to run for.
Michelle's going to be head of the UN or something. I mean, that's what's happening. We're already doing it to ourselves. Yeah. So should we be changing the Constitution to allow it even more?
And I love that he decided to make this point when Obama has the lowest approval rating of all time.
Right,
what is it, like 30%, 37%, something like that. But I appreciate someone saying you should have the option to run again, so you don't just sit on your ass for the last year. But there is too much corruption in government to hand the keys over to these people and trust them and say, okay, fair is fair. If they want to do it, go ahead and do it. There are too many people pulling strings and pulling levers behind the scenes to keep people that we don't want in charge.
Yes.
I don't trust the government enough to say, hey, that sounds fair. Everyone's on the honor system, right?
Right, and especially because the media and government are so close now that, yeah, if you're in for 8 years, you've already manipulated the media. We're finally now seeing for the first time the media turning against Obama with the photo stuff coming from the White House and all that. So isn't it just even 8 years is starting to seem too long for me?
Yeah. I mean, we all know about how the more powerful elected officials tend to lean on the media already. So that's why they do have to give them the type of things they want, or if they can't ask the serious questions or the correct follow-up question that everyone is looking for them to ask. Like, okay, he just spewed a whole lot of nonsense. Ask him what we're all thinking. And they can't, because they're going to lose their access. So as you're saying, now that his power is beginning to wean, because he's wrapping it up, they're allowed to go after people more.
And it's almost like our own little doomsday scenario. It's like, no matter what, no matter how much you love him, how much you hate him, he's out in a certain amount of time. So it's like, it doesn't matter. You have to get it done. You have until this time on, midnight, whatever, to get your shit done, because either way, you're out.
Right. And by the way, I want to say, for me, this has nothing to do with President Obama. Even if I agreed with everything he was doing right now, I would still believe he has to go. And if his ideas and everything was so great, well, then we'll vote for the next person who will hopefully do the same stuff. The cult of personality is the danger part, right?
Well, Well, I was just going to say, it's so short-sighted, because if this guy is Obama's biggest supporter, #1 believer fan, then it happens, he gets Obama for, say, another term, and then the clouds start to get dark, and then, we all have someone that we hate. And now that guy's in charge. Now we have Castro. Yeah. So how did that work out for you?
Yes. Go ahead.
And as much as we hate talking about the horse race and everything, there really is there's a different feel for the presidential elections when it's two new people coming in. Whenever it's a re-election period, when a president's trying to get re-elected and there's another challenger coming in, it just doesn't have the same amount of strength and I guess hopefulness behind it, because both sides are like, we have a chance to have someone new. Yep. Even the side that if it's the same party, we're thinking, here's a chance for a new wave. Yeah.
That's
and there's extra excitement.
So that's a little hope for 2016.
Yeah.
So my last thought on this is, obviously our system is not perfect by any stretch, but a couple of weeks ago they got rid of the filibuster in the Senate, and yes, the Republicans had used the filibuster something like 10 times more than all the other presidents combined against Obama and all that. But isn't there a danger when we just change these institutional things, not that they're so great all the time, but that when we change these things, this filibuster thing, for example, if the Republicans win in 2014, they're going to absolutely use it against the Democrats. So isn't there just some danger in that?
Well, I think it doesn't take a genius to figure out when you start incorporating Dr. Seuss into your filibuster rules have to change.
Right.
It's like, if you can't be trusted to play nice with your friends, then we're going to have to take dodgeball away.
Right, but is there a danger in changing something that's existed for 250 years?
Not if people don't use it the way it was intended.
Yeah, there is, as long as the people haven't changed as well. Whenever we bring up that we can't change what we've been doing because our status has been great so long, we've changed plenty of things because our country and our world has changed enough with it. So once they change, which obviously our Congress has changed, we have to change with them. And it's hard because then they'll threaten to, of course, abuse it, because that's the nature of their entire their agenda in the first place.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of abusing it, let's talk about the media and politics mixing. So, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was on CNN being interviewed by his brother Chris Cuomo, talking about this train derailment that happened on the Metro North in New York, and there might be some level of conflict of interest there because his brother is in charge of the Metro North and does appoint people to jobs there. And Chris Cuomo took some flack for it, and he addressed it also on CNN.
But I knew there was no conflict here. There's no question of conflict because he's got a job to do, so do I. This was all fact-based, and it's something that didn't involve him in terms of the accountability. See, that changes everything. If there's something that's been done wrong in the state level, then he deserves to get hammered. He's got to answer for it, right? I wouldn't put myself in that position because it's going to raise questions.
Okay, so just to be very clear there, actually Governor Cuomo, although he obviously wasn't driving the train, I'm pretty sure about that, the MTA is a state agency. He appoints its chairman, its CEO, and 5 of its 19 board members. He also writes the budget for the MTA. So there is some level of conflict of interest. Obviously, again, not driving the train specifically. There is a ton of this in the media right now where we have politicians related to and or married to the people that are interviewing them, or people that are just in the news talking about them all the time. So this is a very small sample of what's going on. So Andrea Mitchell over at MSNBC, she's the wife of Alan Greenspan, who used to run the Fed. Luke Russert, who's a big shot at MSNBC now, he's the son of Tim Russert from NBC News. So that's not a direct politics to media one, that's just a media to media one. But it's given him all kinds of access that no one else would have got. Meghan McCain, who everyone says is the young, hip Republican, she's the daughter of John McCain, of course. Christiane Amanpour, who I think is CNN's chief foreign policy person. She's the wife of James Rubin, who was in Bill Clinton's cabinet. Abby Huntsman on MSNBC is the daughter of John Huntsman, who's the former governor of Utah, who ran for president. I actually like both of them a lot, but nonetheless. And then, of course, Chris Cuomo on CNN is the brother of Andrew Cuomo, the governor of New York. Now, and there's just a ton more examples of this. So before we get into the specifics of the Cuomo thing, how dangerous is all of this as a general rule? Because even if there aren't specific conflicts of interest, you're never going to question your brother the way you might question a complete stranger.
That's true. I mean, you can't fault someone for, wanting to get involved in the family business, even though this family business is a little different. I mean, would we be saying this if they were both cobblers? We wouldn't be like, liar! So we can't say that, you have to do something different than, your husband or your father or whatever. But don't you think a lot of this Cuomo business would have been cleared up if you would have just asked a question like, what could you have done differently? How are you going to fix this in the future? Because he said this was all fact-based, but there are a lot of questions he could have asked that were not fact-based that would have put his brother in the hot seat, and he would have actually sounded like he was speaking for the people instead of just speaking as a family member.
Right, and actually, even as we tape this down, I mean, this happened a couple days before. It's still unclear exactly what happened. It sounds like the guy might have dozed off, but they're not totally sure yet.
It's one of those things. It's very simple to solve this. I mean, sure, Chris Cuomo can have his spot on New Day, and actually, I like what Chris Cuomo's been doing in general.
Yeah, this is not against Chris Cuomo,
right? But it's very simple. There's other anchors at CNN. There's other interviewers. There's other reporters. There's anybody that can talk about this. So the headline turned into Cuomo interviews Cuomo, and I think they knew that was going to be what happened.
And then they do another segment on that. It's a little bit
being cute,
right? Where they yeah, exactly. Well, this reminds me of just a couple of weeks ago, Anderson Cooper in the Philippines. The government there was upset that where CNN was shooting, and then CNN did a segment on what the government felt about Anderson Cooper's reporting. And it's like, we keep just making this gross mix of things. But how much should the public be aware of this kind of stuff? So someone like Andrea Mitchell on MSNBC, who has a daily show, her husband is the former chairman of the Fed. That seems like it might come into play when she's interviewing people about budgets or things like that.
And that's the thing. It can be so simple. And maybe, again, we revert back to the old man not knowing how the internet works controversy. People can look this up. It's a general cursory search. And like I said, when I'm looking and trying to see if someone is lying to me, I just look up a little bit of that background and find out what are the reasons for you to say these things.
So you're the one. You're the one that takes the extra step and actually gives a shit.
You're in the biz, though. See, that's the thing. Most people don't do it. It's great that you do it, but what do you think for the average person? Even somebody like, Chelsea Clinton had a pretty cush gig at NBC News, which I think, because she was so awful, finally went away. Jenna Bush is a contributor over there. They were both children of presidents. You think that had something to do with how they got the job? So what should the regular person do? Because most people aren't.
I don't mean to
going to take the due diligence.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't mean to be super slack or cynical, but first of all, I don't think most people know. Second of all, if we just took a cross-section of people on the street and said, how do you feel about this? They would have literally no opinion. And I'm not saying it's because they're stupid, and I'm not saying it's because they're lazy. People just don't care. So I think we're the only ones that care about this.
Can I even say, people may think, oh, that's cool.
Exactly.
Chris interviewed Andrew? Awesome.
Yeah, check out. I don't really care about the MTA, but I'd like to see Cuomo to Cuomo every Wednesday night or whatever.
Yeah. So is this more of just a sort of baseline attack on cable news that we just shouldn't expect more? It goes to like the Crossfire thing where now they've issued a new statement where Newt Gingrich doesn't even have to disclose when he's interviewing someone who he raises money for because it's so obvious that the show is so slanted.
Well, that's different. That's insane.
But it's true. He literally, they used to have to show a little something or he'd have to say something. They actually released
Not even a chyron that says like BFF.
It's like part of the policy.
It's it's actually part of the policy.
That's funny.
So should we expect it?
Because what has become supreme is getting the ratings. Again, I'll give the same example. Cuomo versus Cuomo. You can do a Street Fighter, put their heads and do verses. Round one. But so they can do all that stuff. And it's cool because people, I'm going to watch the interview on CNN. I haven't watched anything on CNN, but I'm going to watch this one because it's the brother. So what they've generated is we need to find a different way to get ratings because people aren't watching us as much anymore. So they'll take that.
I'm going to take your Street Fighter reference and raise it and say nobody wants to see a tie between Rose and full disclosure, I voiced Rose. But I don't remember any of the other characters. But that's the thing.
You voiced Rose?
Yeah, I'm Rose in Street Fighter 4.
Yeah.
Soul Spark.
Oh my God.
So anyway, just to we got talk about.
Bring it home here. Bring it home.
But that's the thing. I think that I think that when people tune in to see, Cuomo versus Cuomo, and then they just see a bunch of guys like slapping each other on the back and shaking hands and see how woefully anticlimactic it is, then how did that help them?
It's too late, they've already watched.
Right.
Ratings are in.
Well, you've given me a beautiful segment here because Gina voiced Rose in Street Fighter 4. I used to work as assistant manager at Electronics Boutique, which is now GameStop back in Long Island. And we got a story on video games for you. I actually love this. A new study out of Israel found that video games are actually good for children. Yeah, everyone says they cause violence and they make you dumb and antisocial. No, not the case.
And that they learn stuff. A lot of stuff. English, math, history, language, space, minerals, chemicals, sciences, technology, different countries and cultures, how to fish, how to save money, how to build, how to drive, how to fly and land a plane, how to invest in the stock exchange, how to make ice cream, how to shoot, how to program, how to search, strategize, how to solve problems, how to be consistent, to calculate, to concentrate, how to win and lose with respect, not get in touch with people I do not know, how to play soccer, basketball, and how to improve my body.
All right, that guy was talking pretty fast, so let's give you a little visual, simple one sheet on why video games are actually pretty good. A good storyline produces a context where kids feel happy working hard. Failing up, when a gamer fails, they become more creative and resourceful to get to the next level. Games empower children, and collaboration. Players share a common space and understanding. I'm a big gamer myself, so I love this story.
You forgot number 5.
What's number 5?
Kids learn a new way to call each other names online. Punk ass motherfucker bitch.
That is my favorite lie that happened in that video was, what about, they teach kids good sportsmanship.
Yeah, not
Trolls are created on Call of Duty. What is this good sportsmanship I'm hearing so much about?
Right, okay, so there of course there's plenty of that, and especially with the online stuff, and you can be screaming at people and all kinds of racial stuff and homophobic and all that good stuff. But on its face value, doesn't this seem pretty good? Because I feel like video games get beaten up so much in our culture. We have this huge amount of people that play them. Halo comes out, it makes 400 million in a day, and then everyone blames it for every shooting. But it's showing how problem solving and eye-hand coordination and all that stuff is actually related to video games.
Well, and we know that it actually works because the military recruits people who have skills in video gaming because everything's remote controlled. Yeah. So it's not, it's not a complete waste of time. And
even from another aspect, surgeons, they're starting to dive into remote surgery. Yeah. A guy from the East Coast can do a surgery in California remotely, and you need even steadier hands than surgeons of old with your scalpels. It's like there's of course everyone's played video games. These latest ones, you have the slight movement of the controller. Yeah,
tell us about it.
I haven't played since 1956.
Like I remember the Atari controller. You just jam it forward and go as far as possible with your one big red button. But now there's slight movements do huge things, and there's that steady hand and that steady coordination and concentration it takes to do things that are of utmost importance when you're playing online, or else you could get called horrible names.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all about not being called horrible names. But isn't this one of these things where it's like anything else? Like, if you use it too much, yes, you could become antisocial. You could sort of disconnect from the real world. And there are, in South Korea, I think they have a ton of rehabs for people that are addicted to games. So it's not all good. But is it one of these things where it's about personal choice, and if you use it sort of appropriately? I played video games 5 hours a day when I was a kid. I'm okay, basically.
But were you playing 2D games? Because that's adorable.
I was playing 2D
Me
games.
too.
I was playing Super Mario
Of
Brothers.
course you were. And that's the thing, like you put me in front of a 3D, first person, whatever, and I'll spend 45 minutes trying to figure out how to turn away from a wall.
Yeah.
I don't understand. My hat's off to people who understand it. I'm really bad at it. But I think that, like it just gives people, like so many things online do, give you permission to be such an abusive, faceless entity that it's just no good.
But we're also on YouTube, and you have access to that on YouTube too, to be the
Talk about not reading the comments. This guy only hears about stuff from the collarbone down, so I understand. But I think that when you let kids especially have access to each other without with being able to be anonymous and being like a shitty teenager, because we were all shitty when we were teenagers, I don't know, I just don't know how that really helps society.
It's just a limit on anything, really. Definitely. It's a matter of, I mean, they tell me all the things you learn. And you learn a lot of things in school, but you only go there for a certain number of hours a day. You have to leave. You need to change of pace. So yeah, do your video games, learn all these different things that you're not even sure you're learning, and then get your ass out of the house. Just move a little bit.
I like what you said about the 2D thing, because I'm thinking, like, if I grew up playing, let's say, Nintendo and Sega Genesis, so everything was 2D and you ran, you know, right to left, basically, or left to right. And but now, you know, because everything's 3D and you're running into the screen and all that, I played Star Wars Battlefront a couple years on PlayStation with my friend who I grew up playing video games with, and his 10-year-old son was killing us. I mean, we literally couldn't get out of a room. We were laughing hysterically because we used to be kings, and now we were getting abused.
And there's something cool about that.
No, and there is something cool about it. We ended up going to the store right after, and we got one of those compilation of old games, you know, because we couldn't take it anymore. But
gotta get the simulator.
My point is that maybe his 10-year-old son's brain actually is able to more sophisticated and evolve quicker, because his baseline, he's starting in a 3D world, and who knows what that will lead to.
Right. I mean, we know, we don't know, but here the percentages of our brain we actually use, which is minuscule. And so we're going to go to the other reference. My 2-year-old son, he's got an iPad, and the kid at 1 was like, I'm gonna choose that, and expanding things. Yeah. The stuff that didn't exist when we were that young.
If you really want to have fun, put a magazine in front of that child and watch them try to swipe across and see why the pages aren't turning. It's hilarious.
You are a sadistic woman.
It's super funny. They don't get it. They're like cats. And that's the thing, because they're used to iPads. So why, when I swipe the front of this Cosmo, why isn't anything happening? Because that's the thing. They're coming in at such a more sophisticated level than we are, that is really interesting and that is really cool. And I hate being the cliche, like, in moderation, but like, if you don't, then you just have, you know, some kid who doesn't know how to socialize.
And on that note, let's move on. A Seattle restaurant asked a patron to leave after he was wearing Google Glass in the restaurant. The guy went on a rant on Facebook, and the restaurant owners, they didn't take it lying down. They posted this on Facebook. If you do wear Google Glasses inside or film or photograph people without their permission, you will be asked to stop or leave. And if we ask you to leave, for God's sakes, don't start yelling about your rights. Just shut up and get out before you make things worse. That's David Minert, who is the restaurant owner up in Seattle. I really love that, because yes, that's the point. You know, everybody's going to be doing this, and then everyone's going to be screaming about their rights, and it's my Google Glass. But yeah, just leave or shut them off or take them off. I think this Google Glass is really going to fundamentally change how humans interact. Should we be expecting this all the time? If you go out to a restaurant, are you going to mind being recorded at all times by strangers?
Well, you already can't mind, because I know my sneaky ass friends. You know, you pretend you're taking a selfie, and all of a sudden it's like, but that guy, I know him from something. Okay, see? So people are already being recorded against their will. But I love that this is really the only part of the country this could happen in. Where else besides near Silicon Valley are you have just too much of a Google Glass problem? Have you ever actually seen anyone wear a Google Glass before?
I haven't seen them yet, but it's starting there. But you know this is coming across. I mean, and once this thing gets cheaper, and it's not even fully out yet, I think it's still in beta testing or whatever. Do you fear that we're going to be living in this constant recorded digital?
I think our history and the way I'm ridiculed at the Young Turks every day knows that, you know, I think everyone's suspicious. So if I see anyone, if I see Google Glass, I may be the one that goes to the restaurant manager and goes, hey, there's a guy over here that's looks a little suspicious, and if you don't take care of it, I'm gonna have to take care of it. Yeah. So then it all gets changed, you know.
There's a guy over there eating a salad along with his Google Glass. I'm gonna take care of it. What do you mean? You're gonna kick the crap out of him? What are you saying?
I'm just gonna tell him, listen, I don't, you know, you need to confront people who you think are up to no good. I'm sorry. And if they're not, cool. If it's, again, it's the second time I'm gonna sound like a Republican in this particular show.
Right-wing maniac.
If you're not doing anything, take them off.
Right. But what they would argue, and I think that's what the heart of what the owner of the restaurant was saying, is that it's their right. It's their right to use their body and the electronic equipment attached to their body. I mean, soon it's going to be built into us.
Right. Well, and isn't it just so refreshing, too, on the flip side, to hear a restaurant manager, not customer always right themselves to death, being like, if we don't want you here, get out. Yeah. Like, how great is that? I want to eat there.
We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone.
No shirt, no shoes. recording glasses that, you know, look through your shirt and post online, no service.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with this idea that we're all going to be constantly watching each other and doing surveillance on each other. It's bad enough the government's doing us, but it reminds me a little bit of the movie and the book Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick about how we all will become these things that are constantly reporting on each other because they'll be able to hack into your Google glasses and then watch what you're watching when you don't even know.
I mean, we talked about 1984 with surveillance. You know what, when other citizens are surveilling others, that's 1985.
Yeah. That's a sequel that they never wrote. Does this all lead us to ultimately living in like a Matrix-style digital world? You know, the whole point, I think, of the Matrix was that our bodies are just going to become sort of batteries for this digital world that we'll really live in, and we'll need some food to keep alive, but everything else is going to exist in that.
And maybe we just have to figure out why we're so obsessed with it. Why is it so interesting to us? Because maybe when we figure it out and we realize it's not as interesting as we thought it was, we'll go back to just having a conversation. I'm as guilty, if not more, than anyone else. I get shit every day for the amount of selfies and pictures and sunsets and all the bullshit that nobody wants to look at. I put them up more than anybody. So I guess we all have to figure out why do we do it? Why are we allowing ourselves to do it, and what's the desire behind it?
Yeah. Well, it's to interact with people, even when you're not sure if they want to interact with you. Yes. So we have this obsession with wanting to do it. So okay, once we run out of the first wave of using our phones and our Google Glass for the first purposes, then you start going, what else can I do with this?
Exactly.
And then it goes deviant.
Yeah. So then, speaking of that, speaking of that deviant part of it, should we have any reasonable expectation of privacy? If you walk down the street right now, you could be, you know, photographed by Google Earth, or the car thing that's driving by and mapping everything. But we don't expect it to be coming from other people. So should we have any reasonable expectation? If you're sitting at a cafe having a cup of coffee, do you have any right to not be photographed or taken video?
We already know that if you're famous, you don't have a right, because there's people hiding in the bushes with telephoto lens taking your picture, and we're totally fine with that. Yeah. If you make a certain amount of money and have an expected certain amount of awesome life, then you've given up all your privacy. So I guess we're just the next tier, couple tiers down.
Right. So is this, who was it? Everyone's going to have their 15 minutes of fame. Who said that?
Andy Warhol.
Is this the Andy Warhol thing? Maybe he really was.
But 15 minutes of fame against their will.
Right.
That you didn't ask for.
Yeah, so you have to combat it with, when you're out of the house, just being boring. Wear big dumpy sweatpants and walk around and do nothing fun, and no one will take pictures of you. No one will pay attention to you.
I went to Trader Joe's in sweatpants last week, and I felt very
human piece of garbage.
Yeah, I felt like George in Seinfeld, because remember he's wearing sweatpants and Jerry's like, "You've officially given up."
Yeah. This is such an LA resident's life story we're telling here. Like, I went to the store, sweatpants. I looked at that bad leaving the house.
It was rough. All right, we got one more for you. Believe it or not, a male contraceptive pill is coming out. Yeah, that's right. Researchers announced discovery of proteins that can be blocked to prevent the launch of sperm cells during ejaculation. Calm down, guys. It'll knock out the proteins in genetically engineered mice, which resulted in male animals that were completely infertile, though they continued to mate normally. So basically the sperm can't get into the semen, so you can have as much sex as you want, and you are not going to become pregnant. This opens up a Pandora's box of issues. I will go to the lady on the panel first.
Thank you, kind sir.
Will you trust a man to...
Hell no! And that's the thing, like, I think this is an amazing advancement. I mean, all we do, first of all, in this society is put money, more money than we could even imagine, into men's penises. Yeah. You know, with Viagra and Cialis and pumps and whatever you people do. And
I don't think we're on trial here.
But, I mean, the penis industry is booming, so why don't we do something that actually could, you know, help in other ways as well? Right. And I think it's great, and I know that men are afraid to take contraceptive because I don't know how it's going to affect my body. I don't know how about every way it affects our bodies, but we do it because we want to protect ourselves and not add to the population for a million reasons. But I'm ultimately the one that has to, worry about it. So if you're like, no, baby, it's all good. I left my Magnum XLs at home. I got this covered. There is no way in hell I'm going to trust you to deal with my body.
Right. So you brought up like 20 great things there. First off, we have a whole industry based on getting the penis in. This is the first thing that deals with what happens once it's actually in there. But what about the trust issue? Really, I think that's a legit thing. If a woman's taking the pill, she knows she's done her due diligence when she's having sex. But how can she trust the guy, any guy, not just a one-night stand? You'd be with a guy for months. Even if he forgets to take it or whatever it is.
This is what responsible fathers tell their sons. I mean, back in our old world, since we're old folks now. Yeah. We tell our sons, hey, don't trust her when she says she's on the pill, man. Don't trust her. She's trying to get you, son. She's trying to get your money, right? So if that's already the thing that happens.
Your son's only 2, and you're really giving him the lessons already. That's
yeah, this little 2-year-old Tyler, man, she's eyeing him a little too closely. She's like, she sees his blonde hair, she's like, So
it's actually way funnier because there are no men with money in Los Angeles. Go ahead. Not the ones that I've met. Yeah. Go ahead.
So it's you go just from that point of, if you don't trust women who are way more trustful than men, what percentage of men are you supposed to trust and saying, yeah, pop my pills this morning. It's going to happen. We're good.
Right. What about all the side effect stuff? Because obviously the pill, in a way, the pill does do some good side effect stuff for women, right? Like it clears up your skin or certain, right? Like there's some of that kind of stuff.
Honestly, I still don't know what to believe because there's so many different pills and there's no way to know how it's going to affect you until you take it. I know some women are fine with, some women go batshit crazy on certain pills. Yeah. Some say it ups your risk of breast cancer and cervical cancer, some say it lowers it. So clearly, like I said, the money is not being put into that research as much as it is being put into the Cialis research. Because I still don't know, and I've been dealing with the pill for many years. Yeah. So I don't know, but maybe, first, if you're both taking it, then maybe it's all good. Second, I wonder if this starts becoming a thing, if we're going to see a rise in sexually transmitted infections.
Yeah. All right, so you got to the next one.
Sorry.
Yeah. Doesn't this, no, perfect. Thank you for doing that. I mean, doesn't this lead to that? I mean, the pregnancy thing almost is secondary because so many women are on the pill, and if you trust the woman you're with, then she's not going to get pregnant, basically. But you're now opening yourself up to every STD. You're opening both of you up.
We talked about the Cialis and the Viagra's, and those commercials always say, by the way, this doesn't protect you from sexually transmitted diseases. And we see how those, of course, are directed at older men because those are the generally men who have those issues. So this could be directed at younger men because they're vibrant and still sexually, still able to reproduce, right? So once you start targeting at younger guys and say, by the way, watch out, you might have to worry about sexually transmitted diseases, they care less. Generally, the older men are like, yeah, I'm slowing down, I got my woman, maybe just one on the side, and then so we're not worried about pregnancy as much.
For the record, though, those older men still can reproduce. A man can, it still works.
So they are in the ground, they can reproduce.
To the minute before death, the sperm.
There's a bit of a, I haven't read too much research, there's a certain level of a biological clock for men where there's issues maybe with your children, just not.
Right. Well, the sperm has.
Are they going to have gills or something? Yeah.
That kind of thing. Bigger ears. Is there just something different between men and women here that I feel like women are more able to be responsible about their body? That this doesn't strike me as something that men would even do because the woman ultimately is the one that gets pregnant. So there's something about this that seems like
honestly, I think in general, it's a huge step forward in our society to have men be just as accountable for pregnancy as women are, especially when it comes to changing the biology of your body. But I just think that things happen. I mean, I've been on the pill for a long time. My friends have been on the pill, and I am not the world's most responsible human being. I'm the worst, actually, at everything. I'm always late getting places, and my hair looks like I combed it with a candy apple, and all kinds of crazy stuff happens. So I don't always trust myself, and it would be amazing if my partner, whoever I were with, would also pick up some of that slack because I'm not perfect.
Ooh, all right.
Like can I go to, since I'm the conspiracy theorist on the panel.
Yeah, go.
But this one is
you became the old man, the conspiracy theorist, the Republican. What else?
Well, I mean, this is less on the conspiracy side, but the first thing I thought was, because I come from the point of, well, what about the guys? What I saw in thinking about what they're giving these guys is the mice became infertile. For how long? And I never, at least maybe I missed this part of the article, but it didn't seem like it was something that was a temporary thing. It seemed like it was permanent.
So if you stop taking it, your sperm will start working again. And those are the things that they're going to have to work out and how powerful.
I'm not sure if that was conveyed very clearly.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to drub everybody with information, so it was the basic
not
thing.
Yours, but I'm talking about in the article I read, I didn't think that they pointed out, and the mice became later were perfectly fertile.
Right.
I didn't see that part.
So, final thought on this: what about the unintended consequences? Because everything has unintended consequences. And what happens when, let's say, the government of China that wants to control population decides to put some of this stuff in the water, or all kinds. I mean, it opens up again a Pandora's box of all kinds of stuff. So, do we have to be afraid that this stuff is?
I think that's the ultimate question when it comes to progress: is do we curb progress because we're afraid it could fall into the wrong hands, or do we keep pushing society forward and trust that people have the best intentions at heart?
They don't, and I've always.
They don't.
They just
Good night,
don't.
everybody.
Yeah, conspiracy theorists speaking here.
Is that a reason to stop progress? Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
Well, it's, even if you want to, you can't. That's why that's why I always believe in stuff. I think we're going to destroy ourselves. Humans are going to destroy ourselves in one way or another, or maybe 5 different ways, all at the same time.
Well, on that
Good night,
uplifting
kids.
note.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. All right, I want to thank Gina Grad, Jayar Jackson. Their Twitter handles are right down below. Follow them for all kinds of fun stuff. And don't forget to subscribe. It's just a button, and you click it once, and then you never have to think about it again. We've given you a lot of information in your brain, so you don't want to be thinking about that kind of thing. And we will do this again next week, barring any of these 5 things that you said that could destroy the world. Assuming not all of those happen, we'll be back. All right, thanks, guys.